Next, the media's been running the rule over the first 6 months of the Donald Trump presidency. It's fair to say it's been a mixed bag. Some promises kept, others not. But there's been controversy and tweets all along the way. Among the main propositions, building a wall along the border with Mexico, pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, ditching the healthcare reforms that were his predecessor's legacy.
After 6 months in office, Donald Trump's approval rating is the lowest of any American president since polling began. His popularity decreasing as the scandal over his team's possible collusion with Russia in an alleged bid to influence last year's election continues to grow. Trump hit back on Twitter, calling the probe a witch hunt, and says he wants to remain focused on fulfilling his policy platform, like his campaign promise to reform the healthcare system. Internal party divisions among Republicans in Congress is hampering progress. A proposed, then twice revised bill failed to get the votes needed to pass the Senate.
7 years I've been hearing repeal and replace from Congress, and I've been hearing it loud and strong, and then when we finally get a chance to repeal and replace, they don't take advantage of it, so that's disappointing.
The president has, however, signed a slew of executive orders. One of them, his much-touted Muslim travel ban. Both versions of the order were struck down by the courts, but it eventually came into partial effect, a decision taken by the Supreme Court until it hears the full case in October. The ban drew mass protests across the country and was denounced by numerous world leaders, as was Trump's decision to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. The US head of state has also slashed the budget for the Environmental Protection Agency and rolled back regulation aimed at curbing pollution and emissions. On the world stage, Trump has ramped up tensions with China following North Korean missile tests and put himself at odds with Russia over Syria, going against his own advice to Barack Obama and launching a military strike. The president has stood firm by his pledge to put America first in international meetings and multinational deals, notably by announcing the US would renegotiate NAFTA and pulling out of the TPP.
Kate Gillam's summary there. How is President Trump doing then? His die-hard supporters see no flaws. Others see absolutely no positives. Let's bring in for analysis Ian Reifowitz, Professor of History at Empire State College and the University of New York. Ian, thank you as ever for joining us. Your assessment on the first 6 months of Donald Trump?
Well, if you ask Donald Trump, he'll tell you that he's done more than any other president. Actually, in order really to judge what he's done, you really have to compare him to other presidents. You can't just look at it in a vacuum. On the one hand, there is the unprecedented matter of the fact that there's a special counsel investigating Donald Trump, his campaign, and contacts between Trump campaign members and perhaps administration members and a foreign government and not an ally. So that's one mark less than successful on his presidency. If we want to look at successful marks, he has appointed successfully, he's had a Supreme Court justice, a conservative Supreme Court justice that has maintained the conservative majority on the U.S. Supreme Court. He was able to get a Republican Senate majority to pass a conservative Supreme Court justice. That's not especially a heavy lift, but it is certainly an accomplishment. I would say, though, that if you compare him to previous presidents, even just looking back only 8 years, Barack Obama, within a month of his presidency, had already passed a $1 trillion package, the stimulus package, which included significant tax cuts and spending increases to try to get the economy out of the serious crisis it was in. Donald Trump doesn't have any significant legislative accomplishments that approach what Obama was able to do just in that first month.
So, Ian, can I just put this to you? Clearly, Trump is unpopular in terms of how one side will look at it, in terms of his approval rating, but a survey today says only 1 out of 8 Trump voters would actually be thinking again. What is this telling us?
Well, if 1 out of every 8 Trump voters changed their vote, Trump would lose in a significant landslide. If you think about it that way. I mean, he lost the popular vote by about 3 million or 2%. And there's no way he could hold on to his electoral college majority if he lost 1 out of every 8 of his voters. So that, I would need to see more data and compare that to other presidents at the same juncture in their presidency. Look, really 6 months is somewhat of an unfair standard to judge a president by, and I will say that about Trump. You have to ask, what did he accomplish in his first year? What did he accomplish in his first 2 years, in particular, if you're talking about a congressional session? He could have a number of accomplishments that come in the few months, in the next few months. Having said that, healthcare does look like it's not going to pass, and that was the most important thing that the Republican Party has run on for the last 7 years, and Donald Trump promised to repeal and replace Obamacare. That doesn't appear to be happening. In terms of popularity, the only time that his popularity really matters is on Election Day, with one exception. If he is truly unpopular, then he has no leverage over senators and congressmen who might not be willing to support what he wants them to do. In fact, one Republican senator anonymously told, I believe it was the New York Times, that no one in the United States Senate is afraid of Donald Trump, not even the Senate pages. That's not a good position for Donald Trump to be in if he wants to get his people to vote and pass tough legislation.
Ian, we're out of time, but I was going to ask you, what might the next 6 months bring? Maybe we'll pick that up again another time. Ian Reifowitz, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us. Thank you. That analysis of Donald Trump's first 6 months. We continue the theme, of course, throughout this programme, returning to that on a regular basis. 6 months of Donald Trump. It's been an interesting time. I'm sure you'll agree.